What's going on, guys? My name is Joe. You can find me everywhere online at Tattooed Theist. We have to do it. We have to do a brief video, as brief as I can make it, on the Super Bowl ads. It's already blown up in everybody's face. Just like last time they did this, the organization is He Gets Us. However, the funding organization, the foundation, last time it was the Servant Foundation. This time, it's a new foundation that you can find no information on whatsoever, other than that it is called Come Near, and I was able to find an individual that is a part of it. So what we'll be doing in this video is going through the foot washing commercial, through the Who is My Neighbor commercial, which a lot of people don't know about because it didn't run in all markets. So we'll hit that real quick as well. What are some people saying about it? We'll hit that because a lot of it is very interesting and a lot of it I agree with. Then we'll take a brief look, like we usually do, at gotquestions.org, because this is where all Christians in the world are going to Google, what does foot washing actually mean? So we're going to look through that very quickly. I found Ken Caldwell, who is in fact involved in Come Near. As of November 2023, he's been a part of this organization. He is the CEO of this organization. It's a nonprofit. It's a 501c3. So that's the plan for today. We'll see. It's going to be interesting. So before we get started, if you enjoy this in any way, you guys know the YouTube stuff, please do it. YouTube has us bogged as much as humanly possible. Hit the like button, leave a comment. Don't care what it is. Just help me out. Help this video get pushed out a little bit so that we can get more people, honestly, just in for the live streams and stuff, because that's where all the fun actually happens. So here's the ad. I'm going to let it play.
Don't ask me what you know is true. Don't have to tell you.
And I'm going to stop it a total of 3 times. This is the first one. Family Planning Clinic. What I want to say here is there is no actual context, right? Which is a problem. Because what I believe the intention of this image is to upset everybody. The girl, because she seems younger, the girl who's having her feet washed by the woman, did she get an abortion? Did she not get an abortion? There's no way to actually know. You have some, what I assume are Christian activists with signs over on the side of the family planning clinic. The issue, again, is interpretation. This is entirely open to interpretation. There's no way to know for sure what happened. So there's no way to know whether you should be upset or not. You can make an assumption, which is what everybody is doing. And I believe that was the point. I believe the point was to enrage basically everybody. I see it one of 2 ways, though. In as simple as possible form. I see it in one of 2 ways. Either these commercials, He Gets Us in general, is pandering to the audience they don't have, which would be non-Christians, which in this political climate, for the most part, would largely be the left. It'd be pandering to them. And if you pay attention, it seems as though that's possibly the case. On the other hand, it could be trying to push people on the Christian side to adopt and accept this more progressive version of Christianity, which if you're with us for live streams, you know about, because we've been talking about it quite a bit recently, because that is a huge thing right now. It is this massive push towards a progressive idea of what Christianity is, which is absolutely against the Bible. It's not cohesive with the Bible if you exegete it the way that you should, the only way that there is, which is the honest way. It's not cohesive. So this is the first image that really upset people. I'm going to stop it, like I said, a few more times.
I love your precious heart. I was standing, you were there, 2 worlds collided, and they could never tear.
This is another one that had people a little bit upset, not as much outrage, but this one I think is somewhat still open to interpretation. To me, less. It's a bit annoying, people who are really upset about this one. What people are saying is that potentially it's promoting homosexual relationships, which I get why they're saying it, but the greater context. I mean, there's women there, so maybe not. That's what they're doing, touching feet and like, has his hand on the other guy. It's just enough, and it's just too little to know for sure what is actually happening, what they're actually trying to get across. And this is the last one that people were pretty upset about. You have, what looks to be a priest washing the feet of what appears to be a homosexual man. And again, this one is somewhat overt rather than open to interpretation. However, I get what they're doing. I understand what they're doing. It's still open exegetically to interpretation. And what I mean by that is if you pull a verse about foot washing out of the Bible, just one verse, not the entire section, not the entire full part of the story, then you could apply it to a lot of different things, man. That's the problem with the way people read the Bible now, and applying the Bible to current day, is that you can make any verse apply to anything because you don't have the greater context. The problem is it was used in a specific context in the Bible. So as far as like validating that that actually applies to whatever you're trying to apply it to today, you can't. You can't. And this is why things have gotten so messy, because nobody cares. If it sounds good and if it fits with none of the greater context, then it applies just like that. And it's dangerous. And this is why it's dangerous. Things like this and things like progressive Christianity is why it's dangerous. It's progressive Christianity as a movement is the greatest example of what poor exegesis results in. It results in whatever the hell you want it to result in. And it has become something very damaging. It's become something extremely damaging to the Christian faith. That's the end of that one. This one is 15 seconds, so I'm just going to play it real quick. Now, the only part I saw that people were upset about is this part right here, because it appears to be a male at birth. I don't know what the proper terms are. Forgive me. It's a male at birth. This is a biological man, right? And he's got a purse and wearing, what appear to be female clothes. So people are saying, he gets us, come near. They're supporting the LGBTQ movement. I don't know, man. I think it's a bit of a stretch on this one. This appears to be more of a downtrodden culture push, right? You have like what appears to be a drug addict. This is a convenience store that appears again to be in probably a lower income area. To me, this is more of you have a homeless person. It seems like it's more of a push at downtrodden America, at the parts of culture that are forgotten, that are ignored, which is essentially what they're saying. The one you don't notice, the one you don't welcome, the one that you essentially ignore, and it's love your neighbor. I don't know, man. I don't personally see anything super wrong with that one. All right, so what are people saying? The commercial funded by the organization He Gets Us showed images of several people, including a woman outside a family planning clinic and a person attending a protest, having their feet washed, a reference to the story of Jesus washing his disciples' feet. The commercial ends with the phrase, quote, "Jesus didn't teach hate, he washed feet." Now, the first thing I want to say from an exegetical point of view is that Jesus was compassionate. Jesus would have done many of the actions, principles that are shown in the commercial, of being compassionate and loving towards the downtrodden, being compassionate towards people who are struggling with certain things, afflictions, being even compassionate to people who are struggling with sin. The problem is the actual main thing. The problem is this complete ignorance and the complete willingness to ignore the reality of the rest of what Jesus would have done, which biblically is summed up in the "go forth and sin no more." Yes, show compassion to people who are struggling. Yes, show compassion and love to people who are living in sin, with the caveat of inspiring them to leave the sin, to move on from the sin, to not continue in it, to not perpetuate it. It cannot continue. Jesus would have not been about that. And we know that because if you aggregate the data of who Jesus was and how Jesus was, there's no way to justify this progressive version of Jesus that is just all accepting and all loving with no ending of go forth and sin no more. I want to read a little bit more of this. The commercial was met with an icy reception from many conservatives and religious leaders on social media. We're going to read some of these because actually some of them are really good. Quote, the He Gets Us feet ad about Jesus seems to imply that Jesus was cool with all kinds of sinful behavior. He was not. He didn't go hang out with prostitutes or even other sinners because he accepted the choices they made. He did it to inspire them to change. Robbie Starbuck. Joel Berry, editor of conservative satire publication The Babylon Bee, wrote on X that he believes the commercial was strictly following oppressed versus oppressor intersectionality guidelines and trying to either sell Jesus to leftists or cynically use Jesus to sell a political movement, which are great points. And that's what I'm saying is that this seems so intelligently targeted to non-Christians, or it seems intelligently targeted to non-Christians and targeted to Christians in order to water down their resolve in the Bible, to water down their stance in their faith. Because to adopt this progressive version of Christianity is to abandon actual Christianity. It's the sad reality. Someone else said the He Gets Us commercial might seem harmless to some, but it's obviously part of a psyop to trick Christians into thinking Jesus was fine with sin and apostasy. It's the opposite of what our world needs right now, said Pastor Ryan. Pastor Darnell B. Harris posted on X, quote, it would take a week at least to properly exegete this mission statement by He Gets Us. At best, it is moralistic, therapeutic deism. At worst, it's Gnostic heresy that posits Jesus as a divine social worker. That is so well said. And it's absolutely true in my opinion. Feet would need to be washed before a communal meal. People ate reclining at low tables, and feet were very much in evidence. When Jesus rose from the Last Supper and began to wash the feet of the disciples, he was doing the work of the lowliest of servants. The disciples must have been stunned at the act of humility and condescension that Jesus, their Lord and Master, should wash the feet of his disciples. Washing feet was more properly their work, but no one had volunteered for the job. Jesus came to earth not as king and conqueror, but as the suffering servant, reference to Isaiah 53. As he revealed in Matthew 20, he came not to be served, but to serve, and to give his life as a ransom for many. The humility expressed by Jesus' act with towel and basin foreshadowing his ultimate act of humility and love on the cross. Jesus' attitude was in direct contrast to that of the disciples, who had recently been arguing among themselves as to which of them was the greatest. There was no servant present at the upper room to wash their feet, and it never occurred to them to wash one another's feet. When the Lord himself stooped to the lowly task, they were stunned into silence. Peter was profoundly uncomfortable with the Lord washing his feet, as he protested, "You shall never wash my feet." Then Jesus said something that must have further shocked Peter. He said, "Unless I wash you, you have no part with me," prompting Peter, whose love for the Savior was genuine, to request a complete washing. Then Jesus explained, "Those who have had a bath need only to wash their feet. Their whole body is clean, and you are clean, though not every one of you." The disciples had bathed, and they were all clean, but one, who was Judas, who would betray him, that was what he was getting at. Now, one thing I do want to point out is those who have had a bath need only to wash their feet. Their whole body is clean. Is he talking about literal feet washing? I'll leave that to you. Continuing, so Jesus' act of washing the disciples' feet illustrated their spiritual cleansing. Jesus is the one who forgives. Peter and the rest had experienced the full cleansing of salvation and did not need to be bathed again. In the spiritual sense, salvation is a one-time act of justification by faith. What follows is the lifelong process of sanctification. That's what we're getting at with all of this. That's the point of all of this, is that there is an after. Jesus shows compassion. Jesus will wash the feet. Jesus will serve rather than be served. Jesus will stoop down to the lowest levels of society, like progressive Christianity is really pushing. However, what follows is the lifelong process of sanctification, which is a daily washing away of the stains of sin. That's where I want to leave that, because that is the crux of all of it. And that is what progressive Christianity is missing. And they can't admit that, because with that, their entire castle falls. Everything shatters. This entire progressive movement just disappears. That is the part that is the most important. And that is the part that is being ignored. Now, the last thing I want to run through very quickly is who's funding it. First, it was the servant organization for the last round of commercials. Now it is Come Near. The servant organization you can find a lot of information on. So if you're interested, go look. But they were backed and funded by a lot of good things as far as Christians are concerned. Anti-abortion, anti-LGBTQ. They were funding a lot of things that most Christians are on board with. Come Near, which is who he gets us under now, it's hard to find anything about them at all. I was able to find Ken Caldwell. And so I just want to look at his sheet because I find it very interesting. We've mentioned that this seems somewhat like a psyop. We've talked about the fact that it's a bastardization of the Christian faith. If you're a biblical Christian, it's the pushing of progressive Christianity. And it seems to be a big push towards politics. Regardless of how you feel about any of that, let's look at the CEO and see, where does he come from? Associate brand manager, negligible. But Pillsbury, very large corporation. Senior director of marketing at Pizza Hut. Senior director of marketing at Frito-Lay. Vice president, new product development and consumer research, notable, at Wendy's. Chief marketing officer and EVP research and development, notable, at Domino's. Chief marketing officer and chief innovation officer at Wendy's. Papa Murphy's, chief executive officer, so CEO. And then he's at Compassion International. What any of that means, I'm not here to say. I'm here to say that I find it interesting. And that's all. As new information comes out on Come Near as an organization, or if anything else comes out about Ken, then I'll come back to it. For now, I just find it very interesting, the type of skills that he has, the background that he has, and the companies that he's been engaged with for seemingly his entire career. I find it very interesting. That's really it, though. The key things here to keep in mind are that progressive Christianity is a wicked thing. It's a wicked thing if you actually believe in the tenets of the Bible. If you believe that the Bible is in any way actually inspired by God. Because progressive Christianity, it can't function in that space. It has to subjectively pull things from the Bible to justify their tenets, because they're different. And if you weren't with us, we did do a live stream on it. I'll leave a link to it in the little card thing. We talked about progressive Christianity. We talked about their tenets. We talked about what they believe in. We talked about how they function. And it's not Christianity. It's a different thing. It's just a different thing. It's running off the same name. It is a sheep in wolf's clothing, is what it is. Are these ads similar? Is it a psyop? Is it a political thing? Who knows for sure? But it doesn't seem without issue, I suppose you could say. Anyway, I digress. I love you guys. Have a great day.